Hello, hello. It's Last Minute Man. As promised, I am bringing you my Condor Kukri. And if you watched my last video that I did on the SP10 Marine Raider Bowie, you'll note that I mentioned my extensive use of that knife, over a decade of use actually. You'll know I also mentioned a knife that I carried with me overseas, and that was my Essie 5, and I'll go over that just a little bit here. This is not a review of this knife. However, I have used it a little bit. This is a just unboxing. It's not a legit unboxing because I have used it, but just kind of a tabletop review, talking about my initial impressions of the blade. Now, this is a Condor. These come out of Ecuador. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of these, but it kind of comes in a no frills box here, and comes wrapped up, and obviously you've got to actually maintain carbon steel, so it gives you some information there. It comes with a good sticker to throw on your car if you're into that sort of thing. And just a list of their other knives. So that's kind of neat if you're interested in buying other products from Condor. I know after this knife, so far, so good, I would probably buy another Condor. I mean, I'm very, very happy with this, and I'm doing this one-handed. I don't have my tripod here with me. So if you'll bear with me a second. Here's the blade. Now, thus far, I've taken this into my woods, and I've actually hacked up some limbs on a path, kind of used it as a machete. I've also carved up a new walking stick with it, and I gotta tell you, this thing is awesome. It's one of the best things I've ever pulled out of a box and just used. And it didn't work like I thought it would work. It worked better. And this is just my initial impression. But I gotta tell you, this thing is awesome. I mean, as far as I can tell right now. I carry hatchets typically with me, or a Bowie knife, or even my Essie here. I bring it out from time to time. But some requirements I have of any knife is that it come out of the box sharp. And this did deliver. And if I can, can't work two hands. I would throw my leg up here and shave with it, but we'll do an actual field study of the knife at a later date. But I love this thing. This is so cool. It came with an awesome sheath. Okay, now compared to what I typically use, something like my Essie, and I carried this with me overseas, and this thing I've used extensively, used it a lot. Very, very, very durable knife. I cannot attest to the durability of this because I haven't really put it through its paces yet. I've used it pretty rigorously over the last week, but not like carrying it in a combat theater, in a war zone with you. It's not the same. Or even my Marine Raider Bowie, I carried it a little bit overseas, but this is what I had on me 95% of the time. I was carrying this, and I absolutely, this is something I have loved dearly. It has served me very well. And you can see this edge on here. And if you knew how much I use this knife, So one of my requirements for a knife, and the reason I have my Modelo Especial sitting out here, is just to show you one of the requirements I have is that they all come with a bottle opener, because what good's a field knife without a bottle opener? So I'm going to test this very quickly. Let's see if I can get set up. Give me 1 second. Now you may be asking yourself, what bottle opening feature does this knife have? I got to tell you, any knife that I carry must have a bottle opener integrated into the blade. And I'll show you how that works on this particular knife. We'll see if it works as good as my Essie has in the past for me. So we'll go here. Let's make sure I got you in frame. I take the back here of the spine. Woohoo, what do you know? Opens the bottle just fine. So anyway, that's a requirement for me on all of my field knives, because you never know when you're gonna have to open a Coke bottle or a Modelo Especial, you know, whatever you're into. But I do highly recommend these knives. So far, so good anyway. It's I'm very pleased with it. I can't give it my stamp of full approval because we've yet to really test it. But my initial impressions are, I like it. I like it a lot. And I had guys with me overseas that swore by these. And I always kind of had my nose in the air a little bit because I said this doesn't really have a real multi-use to it. That was my mindset at the time. I wanted something I could fight with if I had to, which, let's be honest, people, if you're down to a knife, things ain't good, you know? So, but you got to understand the way I was thinking at the time, and irrationally, I guess you would say. But I looked at redundancies and that kind of thing. But this is what my go-to was overseas. You can see the blade length. I mean, if we're compensating a little bit, you know, definitely carry the Kukri. But this thing was pretty awesome. I loved it. It served me very well. And my Bowie knife, when I went on missions where I could carry just that extra, you got to remember, ounces equal pounds when you're in a combat theater. You know, you're carrying a lot of gear, 75 pounds at least. So every ounce does matter, especially when you're at altitude. So, yeah, something like this would have been like that Bowie knife to me. I might have carried it on certain missions where, you know, I had more accessibility with vehicles. But in certain places I went, this is all I carried. I carried this. It wasn't all I carried. I carried my firearm and everything else. But as far as my utility knife, this is what I would carry. I love this thing. It served me very well. And I think this will too. I mean, initial impressions are it's a very, very fine blade. I've bought a strop to help me sharpen a convex edge, and hopefully I can perfect that a little better. We'll see. But here it is, the Condor Kukri. And I can't say enough good things about the sheath that this comes with, you know. So to put it in perspective again real quick, this Essie, I can't recall exactly what I paid for this back in 2008, but I had to buy this sheath setup extra, you know, so it would attach to Molly. I think I've still got some Afghan dust on this thing. But this whole setup, I mean, it wasn't cheap. I spent some money on this. And I'm going to do a review on some other knives and stuff that could be comparable to this. I carried this because the name, you know, it's, I hate to say I bought name brand, but I did. I bought because I thought, you know, this is something I can trust my life to. And it's not going to fail me. And it did. It worked very well, and I could trust it. Are there knives you could buy in a lower price point that would probably work just as well? Probably. I can tell you this is a lot cheaper than I paid for this whole setup here. So, you know, my Essie along with the sheath was a whole heck of a lot cheaper than $80 that I spent on this. And heck, by, you know, last year's standards, $80 was too much for this knife. But we're in a different world now. So I purchased this just because I wanted to give myself a gift, and And I thought I deserved it, you know. But I think this is kind of cool. And I'll be using it over the next summer. I'm going to use this exclusively. And we'll see how she fares in a Kentucky environment doing bushcraft where I'm at. So if you have any questions or comments, please do so in the comment section below. If you don't like this, make sure you say you don't like it. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. And remember to keep your knives sharp and keep your powder dry. This has been Last Minute Man.